Welcome everybody to Living Consciously TV, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. We are streaming to you live at consciousevolutionmedia.com and also at YouTube Live, as well as YouTube Red. And I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Todd, and the founder of Conscious Evolution Media. Our theme today is how to apply emotional intelligence to make better decisions. And we have a fantastic guest with us, Sukai Cisse, joining us from Amsterdam. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I love Amsterdam.
Hello from Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah. We have a kangaroo jumping around again. So welcome to the show, Sukai.
Thank you.
And let me introduce you to the rest of the cast this evening. And that would be on the left of Sukai, we have Linda Dyer, who is joining us from that beautiful place where kangaroos are roaming 24/7. That would be Australia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And yes, it's beautiful weather down here, so the kangaroos are out and roaming.
Okay, awesome. And then on the right of Sukai, we have another beautiful cast member of ours, Susie Verdi. She's joining us from Big Apple, New York City. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody.
Wow.
Lovely to be here.
Hi.
Great.
Hi.
So, Sukai, I think the best way to kick this off is to tell us a little bit about your understanding and your version of what emotional intelligence is, and then we can go into how you apply it in schools and in corporate world.
Yes. So emotional intelligence, it's a person's ability to understand emotions and to use them in our along with our inner compass, which I would call our instincts, so that we can effectively assist our thoughts in order to make better decisions. So when properly used, emotional intelligence is basically a person's it's your self-knowledge first, and then it allows you to get a proper self-mastery, and then so that the person is aware of their own tendencies so that they can understand other people's tendencies. So that's how I would consider sharing it to the guests who are listening. And in a very short way also is just switching on a person's limbic system. Way of calling it, you would like.
Okay, so well, my understanding has been, and correct me if I'm off here, because there are many times when I'm off, that most people have no clue about their emotions and what they mean and what to do with them. That even remotely accurate.
That is accurate. Yes, you're not far off there. Many times people don't understand the emotion as a data. So we understand when we read something, you understand going to the library, and you also understand when you receive a link from you, like we did today, to click on it. That's data that you're processing. So many people don't understand what to do with the feelings they're getting. What is it telling their bodies? Should I stop right now and process? Should I just keep processing this and just reflecting on what just happened and then act on it later? A lot of times people get very overwhelmed with what they're feeling and they keep acting and they don't really allow themselves to sink into it and to actually realize what the body is communicating. So emotion is data, actually, and many people don't understand how to process it.
And I also noticed, and maybe Linda can chime in on this one because she works with kids too, that I noticed that kids have much less issue with their emotions. They just kind of do their thing more so than adults. Adults kind of care too much about what they're feeling and what it means, and maybe overanalyze it, and also care too much about what other people think. What?
Yes, and that's true, Steve, because kids are still copying. behavior. And so they haven't learned that a response to that particular event is, for them, it may be fun, whereas for a parent, it may be out of sorts. And so the kid, for every experience we have in our lifetime, I'm just teaching this actually in the neuro-linguistic programming course, but in quantum physics, if you look at every experience that we have in our lifetime, we add an emotion to it. And it's the emotion to the experience that makes the experience unique for us. So each child has a unique experience, as do adults. So a child can become really confused when you walk out of a theatre, or you walk out of a play, or you walk out of an event, and everyone is sharing their emotions or feelings about that event. And the child goes, well, I didn't get any of that. Because they haven't been conditioned to think that that's the way they should feel. And I really hope that they just go with their own instincts from then on. However, sadly, that doesn't always happen. One of the chapters in my book is actually about uniqueness, keeping children unique. Their experience is their experience, and let them have it, and let them share it. But that's exactly right. It's every experience we have has an attachment, which is an emotion. And that's why when a similar experience comes up for an adult, they will automatically go back to that old emotion, rather than maybe I can possibly look at it from a different angle now.
Very interesting. So, Kai, how did you introduce this to schools? Because I wouldn't think that schools would be necessarily open to this. They don't teach this stuff.
Yes, you're right. Schools are nurturing our neocortex. This is the strategic and decision-making and logic and higher reasoning. So one of the things that I do is that I approach the school administration and I let them know what I do. And then I also let them know that the material that I have, the programs that I have, I can deliver it with my team. I can deliver it by training the trainers, or I can also do it as an after-school program to introduce it to them slowly. So some of the schools that I have done it here in the Netherlands, the British school was the first one to say, yes, we would like to try this, because they had a need for adding social emotional learning, as well as making sure that global citizenship is something that they encourage. And so I happen to have a global citizenship program, so it was a very easy introduction to their school. And that teacher training was also a huge part. But you're right, because many schools, even in the US right now, it's they don't just come to it and hugging. Everybody goes, oh my God, this is something great that we need to have. And the big need right now is the fact that teachers don't come out from schools with this knowledge. So, and many schools also look at it as, if they bring it into the curriculum, they're saying something to parents, and yes, they should be proudly saying this. But so it's a very interesting dynamic, but so far it's been very good to get the work here, and the need is great, and hoping to get it covered.
So Kai, I was wondering, what, you said the need is great. So I was just wondering,
Yes.
For the most people, the concept of emotional intelligence in schools, it's still something that they might not know exactly what that is, or why is it needed. So can you describe perhaps specifically what are the needs that schools have detected in their students, so that they think that a new approach should be applied, and invest on it? What are those specific?
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good question. So if we take everything to scientific, it's basically a healthy person when they are born, their brain chambers are fully functional. So as they are growing up, the part of themselves that is allowing them to learn languages, to learn how to understand what mommy is saying, to later being able to ask questions and understand what it is and respond. When the child goes to school, we are in a sense only nurturing their one side of the, one aspect of the brain, not even the full capacity of the brain. And so you imagine this person grows older, everything is logical, everything is reasoning based, it's facts based. But our our limbic system is where our social emotional learning center is. This is your experience, this is your interaction, this is your motivation. And this is how pretty much don't use any languages. And if you just blindfold everybody in the world, their natural instinct is what will take over, their ability to relate with one another. So when you don't nurture this, you're basically just allowing one side of their brain to be lopsided than the other. And as you go into the adult world, emotional intelligence also is not fully trained. So then you will see in top executive levels, I went through some executive training myself, later at that time that emotional intelligence is actually valued very high. But if you actually allow the children to come up as they're going to school to equally nurture the emotional intelligence as well as their IQ, you give them a proper EIQ, which is a well-balanced individual using 100% of their brain as opposed to just focusing on the neocortex. It's an important part of the brain, but you have to understand that the emotional intelligence is basically the bridge between the neocortex and the limbic system to give you a fully functional brain. And by doing this, you're allowing the person to be actually smarter, because them together is what works. And then as people go older and they go to colleges and they go to universities and go to their jobs, you realize that the full functional human being is what we're looking for. We're not looking for a person who is just mechanical. And in a sense, that's what you're doing when you just focus on the neocortex.
Do you think that
hopefully,
yeah, do you think that the problems like, yeah, hopefully, I was wondering, as you were saying, I was thinking of, you know, this modern phenomenon of bullying at schools, and you know, and the fact that some kids think that is okay to use violence against others. So from the perspective of emotional intelligence, how would you explain this phenomenon? And what kind of work that can be done to help it transform into a better and healthier behavior?
Yes, so one of the things that we know based on research and based on by allowing people to be trained through emotional intelligence is it allows for the person's social well behaviors to actually come up. So for example, you're talking about bullying. Bullying is basically a person taking advantage of another person because they're bigger or whatever reason they think it's better for them to pick on another person. Well, when you give emotional intelligence training to children, there was a research done by World Health Organization where they followed children who have EQ training and children who haven't had EQ training. And they found out that children who have been given emotional intelligence training, starting from the earliest age that you can give them, my program starts from 3 years to 18, but this one, they studied children from around 7 years old. And they found out that these children who have had some EQ training had more social, positive social behaviors. They did not act out in class. They did not cut out school, and they were responsible and respectable members of society, even as children. As they grow older, this continues more. And then they found out that children who haven't had any emotional intelligence, they were more likely to be misbehaving in class, to disrespect their teachers, disrespect their parents, as well as be the same way in their communities. So when it comes to a person when the person has the chance to bully somebody and they have had emotional intelligence training, they will actually go through some of the processes of, should I do this? Is this something I want? If somebody were to do this to me as well, would I like it? So the chances that the person who have had emotional intelligence training to bully another person is least likely. And many chances, the emotional intelligence, the lack of emotional intelligence is something that you can trace through that child, through the people who have immediate interactions with them, and also to their neighborhood as well. So it is a training that I know for a fact that will eliminate bullying.
So I'm a little bit curious about, so by the time a kid gets to school, they already been programmed by their parents.
Absolutely.
So how do you change that programming?
I see where you're going with this, and I like it. So this is true. Yeah. Earlier, Linda made a statement that children mimic, and children like to play back whatever they have observed, and this is true. So in the early stages, children will play back, will do anything that they have observed in their environment. So one of the things that I do in my program is that every school that I do the emotional intelligence, it is a three-pronged system. It involves the school, the student, and the parents. One of the parents. And then we then do a training for parents to be able to better assist their children and their curiosity as they grow older. So we give them a trainings for being proper emotional intelligent coaches at home. And by being able to do this, they will continue modeling positive behaviors at home. And then the teachers at school will do equally by training EQ at school as well. So that way the child has reinforcement both at home and at school.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely incredibly important, because you know, one of the reasons why I just completed my book is because I went to the education department to tell them about the success I was having with children, and he said it's only anecdotal.
Oh no, let the person know I can give them material.
I know. So I thought, you know what, if I put all my anecdotal evidence into a book, there are many other doors besides the front door to an education department. And now literally I've been inundated with people who want to now do book launches all around Australia and get this material. And now they're bringing the teachers to the programs, bringing parents to the programs, the caregiver, the grandparent. So there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Absolutely. You're right about that. Yes, definitely.
So that's why I'm saying I applaud what you're doing. It's absolutely imperative that we involve everyone in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I have an engineering background, so if I cannot test things and if I cannot check them, and if I cannot show that it has... Is
that mechanical or electrical?
Industrial and architecture.
Oh, okay.
Industrial and architecture, yes.
So why industrial engineer awoke to the need for emotional intelligence, Sakai? What's your story?
You know,
I had you walk into.
Tell us the real story now.
I really opened this can of worms myself. I know this. So the real story actually is that I've always been interested in human interaction. And my earliest experience that I remember was when I was, you'd probably say around 7 years old. During this time, this is the time when I actually really came in contact with being in a situation and observing the situation, and also observing the parts, meaning the people, the environment, the smells, everything that comes together with one. It was because my mom, if we have the time, my mom basically used to make these very good pancakes with banana. And then I remember requesting it from her one day to say that I missed it, can you make it again? So she said, okay, when you come back from school, you can just go ahead and get something at the corner store. And then when I get back from work, I will make it. So I was really excited. And when I came back, I did exactly as she said. And when I walked, it was literally like a few doors over to get this item. And according to my mom and my sister, I was gone for 3 hours.
Oh,
I didn't realize I was gone for 3 hours. And when I came back, I lost the window where my mom could have made this. And then she asked my older sister to come and get me. I was still at the front of the store observing this situation. And then my sister came and got me. She said, where were you? We were looking all over for you. I said, but mom says to come and get this. And here I am. I just got it. I'm coming home. She said, you've been gone for 3 hours. I go, no, I wasn't. So yes, you were. No, you weren't. And I went home and my mom confirmed that I was gone for 3 hours. But I was in that moment where that corner where I went to get this, it's like where the taxis stop, but it's also a very busy intersection and people were just coming and going. I just got into the situation and I was looking at people, looking at faces, looking at everything. And when I went home, my mom said, we thought something happened to you. Why didn't you come back and let me know what was going on? And then I said, but mom, this was the only time I was meeting with these people and their faces. I knew there was a reason why I was there and I wanted to stay in that moment. And this is what she wrote down. And then when I got older in college and I would interview all of my friends about their cultures, their rituals, what they did, why they did what they did. And she then told me that I was doing this ever since I was little. And the earliest she remembered was that time. And so I thought I was interested in psychology when I went to college, but then I did a semester and realized, no, it's not psychology, it's something else. And when I realized it, I will know it. So I continued on with the engineering because I really loved the engineering part of it. So while I was doing my studies, I was still intrigued with emotional intelligence. And when I really found what it was, I said, that's the one. But I still didn't stop studying engineering because I loved it. And I was one of the few females in the class. And so I figured I'm gonna do both of these. And then, and I enjoyed both of them. And I think because of the fact that I am utilizing two different areas of my brain and I'm actually able to converge them so well, I participated in a, I think it's called a brain study or I think it's brain elements or brain, something about the fact that the elements of your brain that you utilize more when you're making decisions. And I took part in this after I got certified because they wanted to understand why is it that your logic and your reasoning is so high, but then your EQ was equally high. And so I participated to be a guinea pig to know that I have the natural ability, if you can call it that, with emotional intelligence, just like the technical side of it. So I do know that it's possible for people who are highly technical. It's just that, again, like I said earlier, they are more focused on the neocortex versus the fully functional of the neocortex and the limbic system. So and this is the same thing that companies are doing when you tell them to invest in emotional intelligence. They call it the soft skills. They call it, well, you know, why we cannot even put the, it's all about numbers, it's about the bottom lines, but at the end of the day, the people with low emotional intelligence are going to cost your bottom line. So because they are affecting some of your your high caliber team members. So it is not a soft skill versus tangible skills. They are both equally important. And when I hear this, the last time I heard somebody says, well, you know, these are the soft skills and, you know, every company wants to know that they need to focus on their bottom line. And then I look at them and I mean, the last person that said this to me, I said, you sound like you're saying that your eyes are more important than your legs. They're both equally important and they have different functions. The same thing that people are saying with the neocortex and limbic system and emotional intelligence, because it is so important part of it.
So I was intrigued by the theme that you suggested for our show in terms of
Thank you.
Yeah, how herd mentality can steal a society's soul, and how
Yes.
intelligence, emotional intelligence can help us to actually develop a wiser, critical approach that would allow us to claim an individual space. So, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. One of the things that I would not call it fascinated by. I would not say that I got into it so much, but something that I have done. I had the pleasure of traveling different parts of the world, and when I do this, the most important thing that I like to observe is the rituals that every culture have, and also the traditions that the different people celebrate. One of the things that I was able to pinpoint is that the different places that I've gone to, you see people celebrating a moment that's supposed to be a rite of passage for someone. But when you dig down into it, it has hurt into it, and it has inhumane practices, and it also has things that you and I would look at and almost want to gag. A very good example would be female genital mutilation. That is a big part of some cultures. It is a big part of rite of passage. It is a big tradition. Many people still talk about its religious relevance, but it's not. It's more of a cultural thing as opposed to anything else. And it actually has, in my opinion, if I ever have the power, I would make it a one of those things that it's bad enough that you can go to the ICC to be tried against for things like this, because it is a terrible act against humanity. So when you do this, when you see this, one of the things that I think about when it comes to herd mentality is it's basic, like herd mentality, it's a person's inability or lack of acknowledging that they have basically turned off their own instincts and their own ability to listen to themselves and their natural ability to say, is this right? Yes, no. You basically switch it off, and you then give away your ability to decide to somebody else or to a group to say, because I am afraid of being wrong, because I'm also afraid of being ostracized and casted out, I'm just going to go with the majority's decision making. And normally the majority's decision making is just a person who feeds off of the ongoing vicious cycle of something hurtful being done. And so a person's inability to get in tune, to listen to their environment, to listen to their own instincts, and to listen to their own right and wrong gauge, this is what makes herd mentality dangerous, because the person then loses their ability to even question. And sometimes just saying, stop, is this something we should be doing? I don't think this is right. I don't want to take part in this. Or to just say, guys, should we be doing this? Only that is enough. But when you're carried away with the herd mentality, you don't even do that. So I consider it very dangerous to society.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is very dangerous. And in fact, the herd mentality, or a culture, if you will, is just a group of habits that we've been doing for so long that yes. Some people don't know how to change from that. And so that becomes...
Well, they don't want to.
However, there was an example here where a young boy got a job up in the Queensland, like around the coastal area. And I was talking to a guy who said he came and he actually got a job, and he was so excited. And he goes home and he tells his father and the family, and they beat him up.
Wow.
Now, why did they beat him up? Because everybody in that family, in the herd, was earning money from the government. They didn't have to work.
Oh, wow.
So why would you go and get a job? And so this boy, who really wants to change, who really wants to be different, who really wants to do something out of the box, has to make huge choices. Because if he goes and does that job, he will not be supported by the family. In fact, he could even be bashed up further. he has to leave home. He has to leave everything that he knows in order to go and change, to make change. And when I heard that story, I was gobsmacked, because it was just one of those stories that you think, my gosh, we're all put here for a purpose, but how many of us don't get to live that purpose? And it's not because we didn't want to do it. We didn't have somebody holding our hand that could take us at that moment, you know, away from what the herd was and say, you can make a difference in your own life and other people's lives if you change today.
That's a very good statement, because some of the times there are people who are part of this herd mentality, who are part of this vicious cycle. Maybe they have had a chance to process, but they just didn't want to get out of it because they just don't want to be by themselves. And you have to also understand that people are very social, big social beings. So being liked, being part of a group, and being part of something, whether it's positive or negative, but being part of something makes it feel like, oh, you know what, I belong somewhere. So the fear of not being part of this thing that you're used to is such a numbing effect on some people. So they rather look away. And that act of actually not allowing your instincts to guide you to say something or to walk away from it is the desensitization of a person that actually makes you lose your humanness. And this is absolutely dangerous. And in cultures where people actually can now make justifications of certain heinous acts, is because they have gone through so many years of, I will call it training, even though it's not a positive way of calling it, but they have gone through so much of this that they actually don't see anything else beside it. So this little boy that you are talking about, intimidation is a big part of herd mentality, because you just have to feel like I cannot go against everyone. And that feeling of they are going to overwhelm me if I try to go otherwise, it's the biggest power. That's why they say there is power in numbers. But sometimes that power in numbers can also be a negative thing, because for a child, you have to understand that they want their mommy, they want their dad, they want their community, because this is a big part of their belonging. And once they don't have that, it's like the whole world has been ripped from them.
And
so
maybe,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, I was going to add, maybe in some groups, like the example you used in the beginning of women that are mutilated, you know, what kind of future a woman would have by herself in some societies, even if the pain of leaving the community, you know, like the inability of leaving the community might be bigger than just the discomfort of not being part of that group anymore. In other words, what kind of future a woman would have outside her community in some parts of the world. So even if she has the discernment, the emotional discernment, maybe she doesn't have the choice, practical, because of how that society operates. Would you agree?
Well, I must disagree with that one.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. I grew up in a communist country, and everybody around me bought into the system. Even if they didn't buy into it publicly, they supported it. And privately, they may have spoken against it, but publicly, everybody supported it. And I couldn't put up with it at all from the time I was 12 years old. And here I am, you know, I escaped. So everybody has a choice. It's not like we're not victims here on this planet, although a lot of people like to but hide behind that they are victims, but they're not.
And I don't want to think of victims, but like yesterday I was seeing this show about Iraq and the invasions now of you know, I mean the whole situation, very sad situation in Iraq and Syria these days. You know, there are some moments in which, you know, I know that those are radical examples, but they're happening now. They're happening around the world, in which, you know, people are cut off from their ability to even be emotionally intelligent because of the horrors of a war. You know, that's what I wonder. So which leads me to another question. Do you think, Sukai, that emotional intelligence is more preeminent in societies that are more free? Or say, you know, you're in the Netherlands and you're starting your work in very progressive schools, I would imagine. So do you think that there's more leverage to talk about those things in societies that are naturally freer as opposed? Yep.
Well, that's a very good question. Emotional intelligence, it's not a privilege. Emotional intelligence, it's a natural language that we are all capable of, because we all have, if you're healthy, you have the chamber in your brain that allows for this. That's your limbic system. So it's not that you can say that, oh, people that are born in Iraq don't have emotional intelligence. People that are born in America have this. A healthy person who's born in Iraq, Iran, Syria, anywhere, is able to make sound decision making using emotional intelligence, because everything that I have to develop my emotional intelligence is in an imprint that all of us have. So you nurture it and then you see it build, take form. You don't nurture it, it's just dormant there. So you can find a person in America who has zero emotional intelligence. I had some of the people in my classes in college, and I traveled to different parts of the world, Saudi Arabia, go to Turkey, go to every other part of the world, go even to Iran. There are people with very good emotional intelligence. And I believe what the competency, one of the competencies of emotional intelligence that allow a person to be highly aware of the choices that Steve mentioned earlier is something that that is called consequential thinking. This basically allows the persons to evaluate their choices, their actions, and their consequences. So using back the example you gave before regarding the female genital mutilation, those ones, you can have people in societies that basically say, I don't want to take part in this, even though it happened to me. I will make sure that my children do not go through this. But you don't see that kind of decision making. You see mothers, grandmothers, aunties, uncles, fathers, brothers, basically cohorting to figure out how to take the next generation who haven't been cut to be cut. And nobody says, oh my God, this is terrible. The person who says, I don't want this, is the person who makes every effort to make sure that their children do not go through this. And they will stand up against the community who comes looking for them to say, no, you can take me anywhere with my children, but they are not going to get caught.
Yeah, now, you know, this is a brilliant example of what you're saying, because I saw this with my own eyes in Uganda, Africa. There was one, and I have the paper article, I brought them back with me. That was a real experience, having 2 weeks in Uganda. I now sponsor a village over there. But in this, while I was there, this girl, she was a beautiful, beautiful girl, and you just reach that time in your life, and she's just, you know, she can go to university, she can, you know, we can sponsor her through school, we can do all sorts of stuff. And this 81-year-old man comes to the home and says, I want your daughter, and I'll buy her for 15 cows. Now, if that father had said, no way, you're not having my daughter, you know, she has a life to live, etc., but he didn't. He said, I want the 15 cows, so you have to go off with this man. And she's pleading with him, daddy, daddy, please, no, no, no. And this man grabs her by the hair and literally drags her to his den of the other 7 wives, because you're allowed, and rapes her, and she eventually has 2 children by him. And what she does is, when he dies, because he's in his 80s, when he dies, she runs out of that situation, takes her children, goes and takes some of the cattle that the father had taken for her, and then sells them and buys herself a little cottage and raises those children. It was an amazing story, but it's sad, sad as. Then there's this other family, these 2 contradicting families, where the father lost his wife to AIDS, but he says, my daughters are not being raped by any man. my daughters are going to have every opportunity that I can let them have, or they can have here, with my nurturing. So he holds on to these girls. He puts them through school. They come home to him. He supports them every way. And then he starts to put them through university. And they end up getting their degrees because one father says, no cattle, no nothing is going to come and replace these beautiful women. They need to be able to grow up and be whoever it was they were meant to be. This is in exactly the same town, exactly the same race of people. It was just people making absolutely different decisions to assist and or not, you know, or to change that the way that the people were living. And I was just gobsmacked by the difference that can happen in one town and how often it was to the exploitation of the women.
Do you think, so I just come back to this, Sukai, is because there's a common thread that I'm noticing in all these conversations, and that is the need for people to know who they are. So if you don't know who you are, then you pretty much go for anything that's kind of coming your way. Would you say that's accurate? I mean, what is a human being's filter in order to say, okay, so this is something that makes me feel good, I'm going to do this, but this other thing doesn't, and I'm not going to do that. Doesn't that come from a core that people are connected to, and they understand what their values are and who they are? I think
I can't see her on the screen.
Yeah,
today.
well, you'll be, either one of you can be Sukai for right now.
Yeah.
I think that when we know who we are, we definitely can make better choices. And I think even that's the idea of life, broad sense. It's that we get deeper and deeper, you know, into the space that we really are, so that we can start create better and better circumstances for ourselves, for others, for the world. And what I hear Linda saying is that, like in that same village, there were pockets of consciousness. There were people that were speaking up and out and saying, no, these are my daughters. You know, they value more than cows. Whereas for other people, their consciousness might think like, well, what's the value of a woman? Because this is ancestral thinking, isn't it? They might not even be bad people. It's just that their grandfathers would do that, and they haven't developed critical thinking. And so that's what a woman's worth, right? It's a good price. Maybe he even thought, well, 15, cows is a good price. So I think that we develop as collective and as individuals as well. And I think like the society that we live in, industrial society, individual intelligence is not only allowed, but it's expected that each individual finds his own space, follow their dreams, walk their path. But in some cultures, this might not be as available or not available at all. Do you agree, Linda?
So what I want to say to that is that I think in this country, there's a lot of people that have emotional intelligence. My own personal, experience. But then if I think about the two people that we're trying to pick as the president of the United States, how in the world a country like the United States of America can produce that result is beyond me.
Well, it's beyond people around the world, actually.
Well, you see, I'm not going to say anything.
It just doesn't compute.
I live here, but I don't vote. But
Yeah, but the thing is that you know, the people that wanted to vote for something different, they may not have chosen well. However, they wanted something different. They want something different. They understand who they are, and that he may have disappointed them for most of the time, but especially towards the end. But he was offering them something different. He was offering them an opportunity to make some changes, as crazy as some of those were, and that's what people wanted. People are looking for change. People are looking for opportunities to do something different, and maybe get out of the rut, maybe get out of what everybody else is doing.
So I have,
you know, that's what we get from an international perspective.
I have a question.
The kangaroo perspective.
I have a question for Sukai.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, you know that we're going to have our presidential election in the U.S. very soon.
Yes.
And so we were just talking politics here a little bit while you came back. So I was just, so I was just curious to hear from you. How do you see the present presidential election with regards to emotional intelligence, American collective emotional intelligence, and the presidential election? What would you say?
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question, because there is never a day that goes by since from the 18 months that it started to now that I don't hear people ask me the questions. So you're from Michigan. Why is it that, you know, this is happening? So you're from the US. Why is it that something is like this? So, I mean, from anybody that I sit next to in a train to somebody that I'm standing next to waiting to get to somewhere, anytime they notice that I'm from the US, they ask me this question. So what I would say, though, is that I have seen a lot of elections in different parts of the world, and I haven't seen the kind of election process that we've had this year. I would say, I'm saying this year.
None of us have.
Yes, and for me, it has been the presidential race with the least emotional intelligence, because the reason I'm saying this is because emotional intelligence.
It's why I brought it up, because it's not making any sense. It's not congruent whatsoever with who we are.
Exactly, and then one of the reasons about that is because sometimes your instincts are supposed to remind you to listen and then to react. And other times you're supposed to observe more and then make sound decisions. And I'm thinking that whether it's with our choices of who we think is the right candidate, to things that we're actually bringing up as issues that are really not issues, or looking away from real issues that are supposed to be dealt about, but yet we don't talk about them because, you know, for some reason we are afraid that we're going to hurt someone, or we're afraid that somebody's going to think that this is not the right topic to bring up. So it has zero emotional intelligence, if you ask me, this entire process, and just looking forward to this whole thing going up. But the part that really bothers me, that keeps me up at night, is the post-election. Because a lot of things have come about. A lot of people, I call this phase, allowing people to wear their real masks. Because when that happens, there is a process where people actually come about because of a experience, because of comfort level, because of being aware of their environment and their instincts. And they actually say, you know what, I am happy to be who I am, whether it's good or bad. We have seen that in this election, and we have seen people proudly wear their face. And I think this is a good moment to actually take it in, not because we want to be mean, but because we say, okay, I see your face. What do I want to do with it now? Because you see them for a reason. It sounds funny, but it's, you know, really what I'm hoping. And so picking up the pieces of the election and the implications to the children, to workplace, to families. I mean, I know people who have actually stopped talking to each other because of this election. I know friends who have been friends for many years in college, and all of a sudden they're not talking because who they're supporting or not supporting. And it has happened, and I never thought I would see those days, but it is happening. And you actually see people saying to other people, I'm going to block this many people because I just know that if I come to my Facebook, I'm going to see such and such. And I think that some of the things that are happening right now, it's the lowest that I have seen people act. And it's sad.
But don't you think it's like two herds now? It looks to me like it's like a herd mentality.
This is herd mentality 101. It is herd mentality 101.
You got two herds. You got two herds now, and they're in different paddocks. And for them to come together to have unity within the United States, it's getting further and further apart, and that's why I agree with you that the aftermath of this election could be ginormous.
Yes. It is ginormous, and this is where I believe that we can actually take back sensitivity. We can take back sensibility, and we can also say that if you scrape away everything. So remember earlier when I was saying that our limbic system is when language does not matter, when sight does not matter, our natural instincts just take over. So this is the part where I'm saying post-election is the time where you say, I feel, I know how to feel, I know how to process, this hurts, and I know that if I do it to another person, it's going to hurt. Taking everything back to its most natural basic level to say that these hurtful things that I have said before, if somebody were to say it to me, it will be difficult. So taking things back to humanity, saying that, okay, we said this, we did this, we wrote this, we even saw all of the videos of things happening. So what do we want to do with it? It's just like going back to the time when there were lots of shootings with African-American people and the interaction they had with police. Some people thought if they mentioned it, that means that they are now taking a stance against police. And other people then felt this challenge of, if I say something about how the kind of brutality that this is reaching to hurting or even killing some people, that means that I am forgiving, I am basically supporting African Americans and forgetting all the good things that the police are doing. And then we are coming to this place where we're getting so polarized. You cannot be this and you cannot be this. But if you're sensible, you can say, I am a human being. Forget about anything else. As a human being, I think it is wrong to do this. But if you do it this way and that way, then I think this is more fair. And I think the fact that we're thinking that you have to either be a supporter of police 100% and forgetting everything they do, whether it's overreach or not, whether it's too much force or not, just saying that because their job is very powerful, because their job is very dangerous, and because they go out and protect citizens, and that they go out in the harm's way when we are in our houses, means that whatever they do is okay, versus saying that, look, I know that they have great training. I know that they mean well. I know they're good citizens because they live in my neighborhood. But what I saw in this video doesn't seem right. So maybe we should question what's going on behind it. It doesn't mean that you're against police. It basically says that my own instincts tell me that something is not right. So let's collectively look at it. And it was very difficult for people to even utter words of remorse for things that were happening, because they thought if they did that, they were automatically just outcasting police. And it's not right. You can be logical, you can be sensible, and you can be emotionally intelligent and expect the utmost of all human beings without actually having to say that it's either or.
Yes, I think that what I've been following through the whole thing today is, what's coming up for me all the time is, it seems to me that emotional intelligence takes a person from a disempowered state to feeling empowered, to feeling, like Steve said, real, but to feel empowered that they can make their own decisions to do what is it that they want to do, what is it that they were put on the planet for, and to make some really amazing decisions focused on who they are and how they feel, rather than what everybody else thinks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Sukai, I wanted to give you a quick opportunity here to talk about the conference that
Yes.
you were involved in, and then we'll close out the show.
Yes, so the conference that is happening is with All Ladies League. And All Ladies League is an organization that basically acknowledges women in different walks of lives and in all kinds of roles that they have to play and the many hats that they wear. And it's an organization of sisterhood where you come together to support another woman to go in the next stage in their lives. So it is an organization that within it, the conference called Women Economic Forum comes about, and this conference is coming to the Netherlands. I became the chairperson for All Ladies League in the Netherlands once I got introduced with this wonderful organization by Dr. Habeen Aurora. She invited me to my first Women's Economic Forum in Delhi, India. And after coming back to it, I go, oh my God, this is amazing. You go to this organization and you go to this conference, you have women supporting you and they taking you to the next stage in your life, and you do the same thing for other people. And this economic push behind every initiative that is done with this organization. So January 27th, and 28th is when it's coming to the Netherlands, and it's going to be at the World Forum. So I invite you all to come and to give us a hand, and it's going to be fabulous.
Linda. Let's go.
I was already invited by Habeen to go to the Netherlands, and I said, oh, it's a long way from Australia because I'm already going over there in April, May next year, but who knows, you know what?
Who knows, who knows?
It's just
well, I'm very fortunate to have, I'm very fortunate to have come in contact with Habeen. She's a wonderful human being. She has emotional intelligence and her heart is pure. So being a part of this organization and making a chapter in the Netherlands has been really, really great. And together with my jobs that I do, I literally feel like I'm one of those women with all these hats and juggling them every day.
Lovely.
And I love it so much. Fantastic. So yes.
Congratulations for the beautiful work you're doing, Sukai.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's my passion. So absolutely love every minute.
Great.
Well, thank you. And we want to thank you, Sukai, for being on Conscious Evolution Media Network and bringing us this wonderful theme, how to apply emotional intelligence to make better decisions. I hope and wish that people are going to learn from this show. I certainly have. And thank you for being who you are and making the difference in the world.
Thank you.
One human being at a time, starting with yourself, right?
Yes, that's where change starts, with yourself.
Right on. And of course, thank you, Linda, and also Susie, for being who you are, which is fantastic cast members and engaging in these absolutely important and wonderful conversations every and each week. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Steve. It was lovely. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, ladies.
Nice to meet you.
Meet you, Sukai.
All right.
Have a good one. See you guys on the network next time, same place, same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.